Before we begin, you may notice a different look today. RT is now in high definition. Some of you may still be getting standard definition, but for some RT programs, but not to worry, that will change in the months ahead. Well, fears of a nuclear attack is prompting the European Union to enforce sanctions on Iran. EU foreign ministers are convinced the country's nuclear enrichment program is being used to create a nuclear weapon. Iran insists the program is for peaceful purposes, but that's not putting the brakes on the Union shifting forward. So the question is, how much of an effect will the sanctions really have on Iran? Well, if you take a look at their exports, maybe not much. As you see here, about the largest amount of oil actually goes to China, with about 543,000 barrels each day, with the second largest amount going to the EU, Turkey, India, Japan, and South Korea. Also, they export hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil from Iran each day. China and most of these countries are refusing to join the oil embargo, so it's pretty much just the U.S. and the European Union. And as you can see here, the Europeans make up just 20% of the Iranian exports. So what purpose would these sanctions really serve? Well, I spoke to author and independent consultant Dr. Sarah Vakshori, who further explained the possible backlash.
As you said, European Union is purchasing 20% of Iran's oil. More than 60% of Iran oil actually going to Asian markets. And for countries of India, China, Japan, and South Korea totally buy 90% of Iranian oil. So actually, deducting this amount is not easy for Iran to find a replacement for customers, but Iran can always offer a lower premium and better prices in compared to the same quality of crude oils, and can find substitute customers. China at this point finished the first phase of building its strategic petroleum reserves, and the capacity of that is between 90 to 110 million barrels of oil. And if Iran sells 450 to 500,000 of crude oil, which is almost the same amount that goes to Europe from Iran, Iran can sell about 160 to 210 days of oil in addition to what already sends to China to fill its strategic petroleum reserves.
So basically, Iran can say, "Hey, we're going to go elsewhere. We can take our markets elsewhere."
It's not so easy, of course, especially with the central bank sanctions against Iran. Iran has to find new ways. But again, Iran has many economic and trade relations with many countries, including China, Turkey. Iran just increased its economic exchange and trade with Turkey from $15 billion to $30 billion. So Iran can use barter trade in such circumstances.
Okay, and you know, some countries, European countries, are concerned that this oil embargo will hurt them. And a lot of countries in the EU say that they can't afford to have this. So, I mean, it's almost, this could be a double-edged sword. I mean, they're trying to impose sanctions on Iran, but this could kind of backfire.
That's actually true. I mean, three major European countries three major consumer of Iranian European unions are Italy, Spain, and Greece, which already are facing a huge economic crisis. Spanish officials, they mentioned that they have talked to the refinery Cepsa, which is the main refiner of Iranian crude oil in Spain, and they have agreed to support the sanctions. But they mentioned that they're going to accept to stop buying Iranian crude oil in case they have a substitute oil. And it's not so easy to change the flow of crude oil from one supplier to consumers to another supplier, because simply the refinery operation and also the trade of refined productions needs time to adjust itself. Also, if you look at the substitute and the options for alternate Iranian crude oil for this market, it's Saudi Arabia and Libya. The Libyan crude oil is light and sweet, whereas Iranian crude oil, which refines in these refineries, is sour and heavy. So really, it's Saudi Arabia to cover Iranian crude oil in this market. If Saudi Arabia is going to cover Iranian oil or not, that's another issue. And Saudi Arabia would always like to keep a certain amount of spare capacity in case of any emergency in future.
Now, Iran is threatening, as a result of these sanctions, if these sanctions do happen, they are threatening to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, this critical waterway where a huge portion of the world's oil supply passes through. But last night in the presidential debate, I don't know if you tuned in, but Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul argued that Iran really doesn't want to shut down this waterway because they need it too. It's not in their best interest to do so.
That's true. Actually, I think this threat is it's real, but not likely to happen sometime soon. If we exactly look into what Iranian officials said, they said the closure of Hormuz Strait is the last card that Iran is going to play, and that's not going to be it's not going to be when the European Union is going to implement their sanctions, because, as I mentioned earlier, 60% of Iran's oil goes to Asian markets, and Iran can substitute its customers. But in the case, my understanding from this statement is that Iranians were trying to set the red lines to the whole world, and saying that under any circumstances that Iran cannot sell any drop of oil to the whole world. Let's imagine there is a universal embargo against Iran, or there's a high limitation for any single drop of Iranian oil to be exported from that country. They're going to close the Strait of Hormuz because they are not going to lose anything at that point. They cannot sell anything through this passage.
So you're saying it's not simply just the sanctions that are going to compel Iran to shut down this waterway. It would take a lot more than that.
Yes, that's. I believe that a sanction imposed by one country or a group of countries is not going to cause a closure of Hormuz Strait by Iranian, but this could happen if the whole world. I mean, there is a universal sanction against Iran, and Iran cannot sell any drop of oil.
So lastly, just want to ask you, now that the European Union has come on board and is joining the U.S. in imposing these sanctions, what effect, what is that really achieving?
That's really good question, because we should see that the coalition against Iranian oil, for how long it's going to last, and for how farther it's going to go. Although Japan and South Korea, for their security, they have dependency on United States, and they are challenging to make a balance between stop buying their oil from Iran, or satisfying U.S. and securing their security. I suspect that this coalition, especially among the Iranian customers in Asia, lasts for long or could be very much successful.
Well, certainly the world is watching as tension continues to escalate in the region. Sarah, thanks for coming on the show. That was author and independent consultant, Dr. Sarah Vakshori.